Good afternoon. Can you tell us about Golden Living? What is Golden Living?
Golden Living is a skilled nursing facility with a primary focus on providing short-term care. But with that being said, we also provide long-term care for residents that this becomes their permanent home. And part of that long-term care population, we do palliative care, hospice care, or end-of-life care.
And tell me a little bit about yourself. Who are you?
My name is Terri and I'm Director of Recreation and Volunteer Services for Golden Living Center. I've currently started my 25th year with the same facility, working in geriatrics.
And Miss Edwards, can you tell me a little bit about how you collaborate with East Carolina University as a community campus partnership for health?
In our facility, we are able to have a variety of students from different programs here in our facility. We are able to be the home of the Adopted Grandparent Program, which is a student-led program through East Carolina University, which fosters relationships between the residents and the students. A lot of them that are away from home, and they make a commitment to visit and become involved with them. And what we have found is that it fosters lasting relationships that even live on after graduation of the students or until the end of the life of the resident. And it's a very, very special bonding. We are also a site in that we are part of ECU Golden Living. The company Golden Living, we have a teaching nursing home program, so we provide funds to help foster that program. So we are a teaching site for physicians, for pharmacy students, for other healthcare professionals such as therapists, recreational therapists do shadowing hours here, all of the other disciplines in the Honors College, and doing the program that we do with Dr. Greer, which we look forward to each year. So we, this past year, looked and we figured out over 10,000 hours of community service went through this facility just from student involvement.
That's awesome. And how long have you been working with Professor Meggs, who is an artist, and Dr. Greer, who is a nurse? And tell me about how you met them and what kicked this project off.
Sometime back, I met them. They wanted to do an initiative with the students, and they wanted the students to get to know the residents. The first initiative was the story of the hands, and I found that incredibly fascinating because I had never thought about that your hands tell a story. So we worked with them to foster the program on doing the story about the hands, taking pictures of the residents' hands, having the students to come in and do interactive activities with them, featuring the hands, and interviewing the residents about what those hands had done, that our hands tell a story. And that was the beginning of looking at wanting to do creative projects every year that told a story, something that was meaningful to the students, but to the residents. And one of the things that I found, it fostered quality of life to our residents. It gave them something to look forward to, and it was a chance to share an incredible journey that they had been on in their lifetime.
And you've got a small quilt in front of you. Tell me about that quilt and how it came to be.
The quilt that we did was a technique called marbling, and it was where the students learned with the residents, and they did colors, and it was abstract in the design. There was no right or there was no wrong. It was something that they could just enjoy doing and putting colors together and creating something. And then we took all the pieces and we combined them together, and we actually made a 3-part quilt of marbling. And we found that to be very interesting, that the residents were very excited because a lot of residents have never had the experience of participating, and they hear the word art or they hear the word craft and they go, oh, I can't do that. but we found out that they were very successful in doing it and very excited about creating something and having a student to work with them. And there again, conversation was sparked and finding out that there was some common interest and just learning and words of wisdom provided. And the residents became mentors to the students, which is a very important component of any interaction, is letting the residents know that they have something to give back to the students as well as the students giving to them. So it's a way that all parties it just creates a super special bond for learning and for sharing and for being collaborators together in creating something.
And what was your project this year?
This year we did, again, with featuring the hands. And I have to say that this year this project was so incredibly personal to me, as my stepdad was here, a resident in my facility. And we did his hands, and as I sit here today, my stepfather passed away this past week, and I found myself this weekend taking my hand and sticking it in the mold of his hand, and so it became incredibly more special. And one of the things that I found that some of the residents that did when we began to do it, and then we saw children that wanted to do it, grandchildren that wanted to do it, and there was something just very special about that hand. And in creating the hands, putting words or putting symbols, something that was symbolic in their life that meant something to them. So a very exciting project to do, and something very, very special when they pass away that you can pass on. And when I look at the hands, it's a piece of him. It's something that's tangible, something I can remember what it felt like for him to touch my hand, and when my hand fits in that, just an important connection.
Can you show us one of the hands? Do you have one to show us?
One of the things that I love to teach about is that when you're working in a nursing facility, you have to help residents be successful. So you have to look beyond the cognitive issues. You have to look beyond the physical limitations. You have to look beyond maybe the crippled hand, and you have to figure out a way to help them be successful. So this is a very, very special piece that we did with a resident that I know that it is, just from talking to the daughter, is going to be something very, very special that she can have, and that will be tangible, that she can see and that she can know that he had a part of. I think that through the projects that we do here, that we learn that at the end of life, or as we journey through life and we get in the golden years, it's not about the fancy houses and it's not about the fancy boats, but to families, it's about the small, special things that they did, that they laid their hands to, and that they created, because those hands, they tell a story. They tell a story of how we maybe rocked our children, or how we worked on airplanes, or how we fought overseas, or whatever job that we did, and however we chose to lead our lives and the things that we did in our lives, our hands were something that they touched and they created a lot.
Tell us how you incorporated the resident story into this project.
When we were doing the hands, we let them pick out words or a saying, or say, for instance, a butterfly. This one gentleman, airplanes were important to him. He was a pilot. He flew planes. So we actually did an inscription of the plane. So we looked for something in their life that meant something to them. One of the things that we found was that the spirituality, words like hope, words like peace, words like faith, favorite scripture were very important to them when they were doing them. Or some just became very creative and liked a lot of textures and a lot of design. So it was very interesting with watching them plan and have their own project come to life with them working with the student.
And were you able to capture the resident's story in some other way?
We are in the process of interviewing the residents and talking about what their hands touched, what what they did in their lifetime. What job did they have? Did they like gardening? Or did they like fishing? Or did they work on airplanes? Or were they physicians? Were they a nurse? Did they deliver babies as a profession? So it was sitting down talking about how your hands, what you remember your hands doing. One lady, she helped make molasses, which I thought was very interesting. Some of them talked about their hands had picked cotton. Some of them talked about they had rocked their children, patting their children on the back. So it brought about a lot of conversation, and conversation is medicine to the soul for residents. So through art, we've been able to bring to life through these projects things that they did, and to show them that they are able to be creative and have a creative side of them. And the real neat thing is the young and the old coming together, that there's so much that each side can learn from each other. And it makes the residents feel important. It gives purpose. It defines a spirit of living and being creative and not existing and not wasting away, but it gives them a chance to bring to life, and especially things they've never experienced. How many residents would you ever say marbled, or how many residents ever did pottery? Some of these residents, these things were never introduced, so it has an educational component to it as well.
It sounds like this gives the patient a lot of autonomy, and that you are trying to capture who they are as people rather than who they are as a disease. Would you say that's true?
That is absolutely true. I've been doing this now for a little over going into 25 years, and I'm often reminded of a question that a professor asked me one day, and it was, when you look at someone that is of geriatric age, what do you see? Do you see the crooked hand? Do you see the cognitive issues? Do you see the twisted mouth? Do you see the drooling? Or do you see the heart? Do you see the soul? Do you see that there's something that they can still be of use, that there's a purpose? And for me, that's been about the passion that I have, is letting our residents know until they take that very last breath, there's purposes in life. They have a purpose. They have a reason. They can still be a part of doing the things they want to do. We have to be creative and innovative enough to bring that out into them. And the way you do it is by collaborating together and coming up with unique ways, unique projects that are tangible, that they can see, that there's an end result that they can look at and think, wow, I did that, I was a part of that. And the other component that I see is that it brings life to the family members. I was so excited when we were doing the hands, because all of a sudden staff was coming down there, family members were coming down, and it made me realize that it's a connection, it's a bonding between all of those that are providing and taking care of that resident.
Why is it so important for these pre-health professional students to understand how these are people and not a disease? And how does this project in art, how do you think it helps students learn the importance of recognition of the person rather than the disease?
Because to be successful in healthcare, I tell students all the time, you've got to get out of your head and you've got to get in your heart, because that heart is the driving force that unlocks the worlds for our residents, the creativity that they can share. It doesn't matter what component of healthcare you do. Residents can tell if you are very real and if you are passion driven or you are just intellectually driven. The intellectual part is important, but you have to come down to their world and you have to see them as a human being, and you have to, I've found in doing this that there's so much they want to say, there's so much that they want to share, because for a lot of them, they're either in their fight to get back home, to get rehab and get back home, or either they know that their years on this earth may be limited, but they still want to continue to live. So what an incredible way to do what I call is to help them empty their bucket with creativity. We all want to be seen as a human being with a heart, and the need to be loved, and the need to be nurtured, and the need to be listened to, and to have a part in our environment and or in our community. Who says just because you come to a nursing facility that your life stops? No, you're still a viable part of the community. But it's programs like this that prove that they are connected and keep them connected to the community, and that's the important part.
I understand that some of the work that the students and residents have done together have been exhibited at local museums. Why do you think it's important for the work that the students and residents do together to be placed in a public venue?
Because it's educational. It makes us stop and think about, this is a way of giving back to the community. The students are giving back to the community, but they're also learning. The residents are giving back to the community. And it's important that sometimes we don't get involved in our community or in things that are going on because of preconceived ideas that we have. Things maybe we don't want. It's like looking in a mirror. And so when they see that residents are able to do projects like this and students working together, it becomes a reality, and you begin to see, I believe that one of our focuses here is if we can change one person, we can change a family. And if we can change a family, we can change our community. And this is an important part. When we display it, we change the thought process of the community that we need to go to nursing homes, we need to go to assisted care facilities, or we need to reach out to people. And if we could just all capture that vision, this would be a different world. We need to see the good in people, no matter if we're young, if we're old, if we're frail, if we are looking to rehab, or if we have a disease process going on. We don't stop living just because there's a disease process. Even more, we need to nurture and we need to provide people with things. You know, I've learned that arts, that crafts, that the creativity, it's medicine to the soul. Art is medicine to the soul. It's creating, and it brings out their youthfulness and things that they feel like that they can be good at doing.
Thank you so much. It really does appear that this partnership between the campus and the community is making a change in many areas. It's making a change in the residents. It's making a change in the students. It's making a change in the staff, in the families. And as you present this projects to the community, you're making the change in the community. Thank you for your time today, Ms. Terri.
Thank you for allowing me to share, to tell the story of how important this initiative is.